And I've never thought about God as a coach, but I kind of love it. I kind of love
Yeah.
it. Like he's sideline, like encouraging you. You've got this. Don't stop,
Yeah.
and come back for a water break when you need it. And let's go out
Right.
again.
Right. And just the game plan. I mean, he sets out the game plan and there's a purpose for it. And just, yeah, there's so much. I mean, you know from other areas of your life, but when you surrender your life to God, he will speak to you in a way that you understand. And I was actually just able to share a whole podcast episode about defeating the pressure of the enemy. And when I tell you God was teaching me how to defeat the pressure that Satan's putting on me, like a press break in a basketball game, he gave me the press break play. So I was sharing that. And it's stuff like that it makes me, it's so fun for me.
Yeah.
But it
Yeah.
also is so real. And to
Right.
have other people completely understand, because you can picture this play, you can understand
So cool.
exactly this is how we do this. And so yeah, he's not wasting anything. He is
Well, and I
not
think
wasting
about
anything.
that, like from my husband is also an entrepreneur and one of my like favorite mentors probably that I've ever had, even though sometimes people think that that's like a weird relational dynamic. It's
Yeah.
not, it's incredible. But he speaks in analogy, like he speaks in visual analogy. He's like, it's like this, da, 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 da. And when he
Yeah.
pulls out an analogy that like does not land, he can see it like all over my body language, all over my face. And he's like, a couple sentences and he's like, never mind, just keep doing what you're doing. It's great. Right. Or never mind, take a right instead of a left. Right.
Yeah.
And so it's necessary for the huge population of people who play basketball, who
Yeah.
might not know the Lord or are just stewarding a relationship with the Lord, or who love basketball so much and they're still trying to like tailor make, what does this look like for the Lord to speak to me?
Yeah.
And so I just think it's so cool. And for people to understand that, like, it is your own, it's just like our own prayer language, right? Speaking in tongues is like, it's your own prayer language with the Lord.
Right.
You don't sound like anybody else. You might self-criticize and be like, oh, her language is so much prettier than mine. I sound like a crazy person when that breaks out. And it's true, I do. And I get into the place where he's like, like you're not talking to her. You're talking to me. And I don't care what you think you sound like. I understand what you're saying.
Yep. No, I just think it's so true and it's so right. And then when we can see stuff like that, we can stop comparing ourselves to everyone else.
Yep.
Like you just weren't designed for that. And guess what? I wasn't designed for that. Like it's just I have this conversation with a lot of people that for those of us who say like I'm in full-time ministry, we all are. And I stopped saying that. I worked for a big church for a long time and I stopped saying I'm in full-time ministry. I started saying I work for a big church.
Yeah.
Like, that's the truth.
Good. That's
like
good.
If you're a hairdresser and you're a believer,
That's
you are in full-time ministry.
Come on, preach it.
And I just love that. If we could all walk in where God has called us.
Yeah.
And the crazy thing is the world would be a mess if all believers were pastors. Like,
oh no,
that'd
be
an absolute
really
mess.
bad.
Yeah.
Really
And then like we wouldn't be trusting any mechanics. You know what I mean? Like
it's so true.
I love that when I go to a mechanic or a massage therapist or a dentist, whatever, and they're like, I'm a believer too. I'm like, okay, great.
Yeah.
Like we want that.
Wonderful.
So then how come so many of us all want to be this title?
Yeah.
Or we think that God only counts this title, or we can only speak out if we're this title. Like, man, tell me the titles of people in the Bible.
Yeah.
And who spoke and who didn't speak.
Yep.
Nope.
Well, he makes the dumb speak, right? That's literally the verse is I can make the dumb speak. I can give the tongue to the one who cannot say words, voice and vocalization. And I think that is so good. It actually reminds me of this guy that I've met through the Clubhouse space and Instagram. His name is Brian Coletto. He's never been on my show, but he's coming to mind right now because he is very vocal about the fact that he is autistic. And he's created since COVID, because he was completely isolated, totally depressed, in this state of suicidal ideation. And then Clubhouse emerged as a social audio app. And he realized that I can be an influence with my voice and I don't have to be good, because he wasn't comfortable being on camera. Yeah. And slowly but surely, he got more and more comfortable going into these spaces and talking a little slower and talking a little monotone. And these things that he always self-criticized or was criticized for by others was now like an opportunity that when he spoke, Kaela, I'd have to quiet down. I'd have to really put my ear to understand what he's going to say next, because it's just a total different pace than me talking, right?
Right? Yeah.
And it is such a treasure. And now 3 years from now, he's growing his social media influence on all these different platforms, and he doesn't even know what he's doing from the lens of the Lord yet. But
Yeah.
I see it so beautifully clear. And so I think it's important for us as believers, even in these places, these gifts and talents that other people have been gifted with, for us to speak life into those
Yes.
places, even if they're not in the understanding that like God is in the middle.
Yeah. And he's using you right where you are.
Yeah.
Like, he's calling you right where you are and using you
Yeah.
right where you are, and, like, can you steward exactly what he's put in your hand? You
Mhm.
know, and just how important that is. I love when you were talking about speaking. I spent, like, a lot of time in the book of Exodus, a couple months ago, like,
Okay.
just couldn't get out of it. Like, friends
Yeah.
would call in the morning and usually, like, they'll say, like, "Are you still spending time with God or do you wanna talk?" But it
Love
came
it.
to, like, "Are you still spending time with Moses?" Like, I was just like, Moses was, like, my best
Love it.
friend, all the things, but the
Oh.
one thing when we talk about Exodus, a lot of us just head to, like, Moses couldn't speak properly, and this was
Yep.
this big insecurity, right? And, like, that's all that's talked about. So, I'm reading and I've been in church now for a while and studied
Sure.
some stuff. So, I'm reading through Exodus by myself with God, and all of a sudden it says, "And Moses said to Pharaoh."
Ooh, come
And
on.
I was like, "Well, would you look at that?"
Yeah.
And Moses said to Pharaoh. Like, and so now I'm flipping back, like, wait, is this the first time he actually spoke? Like,
Come
all this
on.
stuff, and, like, we so often focus on this insecurity that we have,
Mhm.
that we forget that, yes, God will come alongside. Sure, here's Aaron. Aaron can go with you.
Yep,
But
yep.
but after you get enough of me in you, and after you hear me speak, even if I'm speaking through Aaron, after
Come
you
on.
get enough, like, it's your turn.
Yep.
And God didn't even say, "Moses, say this." It just bleh, like, it just comes
Yes.
out. Like, he just had enough in him now to trust and to know and
Mm,
to speak. And, like, if we can continue to do that,
that's so
I'm
good.
telling you, like, all these years of thinking Moses had this insecurity, which he did, but how come nobody talks about, like, there's a verse
But
that
he
it
still
says
did.
Moses
Yeah.
spoke to Pharaoh. Not
Yes.
just to the people, he actually spoke to Pharaoh. So, yeah, that was
Mm.
just super cool for me back in my
I
spending
love
time with
those
Moses.
little times where God, like, it's fresh awakening. It's a revelation. That's
Yes.
what a revelation is
Yeah.
he's revealing something new to you,
Yeah.
right? And you could read it and you've read it and you've done it in school and all these things, but it's like it's almost his response, in my opinion, and what I've seen is he always reveals in the timing in which one I can hear, one I can see, and I say one, that's one, that's
Right.
two. And then three would be that I'm in need of this knowledge. I'm in need
Yeah.
of this wisdom. I'm in need of understanding something on another level. And I might honestly be searching in the world for that response.
Yep.
And he will show me through things like recently, I've been like geeking out over Leviticus and Numbers.
Nice.
And again, it's like one of those things people are like, nobody wants to read that. We just skip that. No, don't go to Leviticus. Okay. Anything but Leviticus. Well, I'm considering myself more seasoned, and I was in the
Yeah.
Bible in a year. So I didn't have a choice. I was checking my box, right? So I'm reading Leviticus and then I'm reading Numbers. And there are all of these in between lines that if
Mhm.
you skip the heritage, if you skip the generational breakdown, if you skip how the holy temple was built and the tabernacle was designed, you are missing it. And
Yeah.
God wants to be in the midst of every single word with you.
Yep.